Derek Thomas, Monday Morning Critic. How are you both today?
Good, Derek. How's it going?
Good. Joe, so my first thing is for you. So you were terrific as John Ross and Mayor of Easttown, and I want you to know that I'm still taking Xanax for the anxiety that show gave me 2 years later. So, no, you were terrific, and it's a wonderful show. Speaking of
Thanks,
wonderful
man.
shows, speaking of wonderful shows, what do you guys think that, Godzilla is approaching 75, 76 years of fame, and people love it. What's the secret sauce behind the show? Either of you, whoever.
I think the secret sauce behind Godzilla in general is that every time it shows up, it's like a massive event. And the whole idea that you don't know when he's going to come or if he's going to come and in what films or he's going to, that anticipation and that build up, I think, is something you can just sort of surf on for a very long time. And yeah. I think that's what it is in parts, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
Well, no, I think in addition to that, the suspense of it, but like that it's allegorical that like through whichever decade the larger like societal issues to be able to use Godzilla as a stand-in for these things, I think is also just like you have an iconic character and you're able to tell stories that feel pertinent to what's going on, and you get to see like some kick-ass fights and destruction, stuff like that. It's a good recipe.
I love the dynamic between the two of you on the show. I'm kind of fascinated by it. So I feel like Tim controls like the situations, and I feel like Duvall controls Tim. Do I have that down to some degree? Like I feel like they kind of work in tandem like that. Is that the way? Is that a weird way of looking at it?
I think maybe Tim thinks he's controlling the situation, but I do think he's on like as only along a leash as like Duvall will let him.
I mean, I wouldn't think like, I never thought about it as control. I think of more of like they complement each other. Like she would be like, she's kind of interested in his ideas because he's such a like thinking person, and she's like an action person, and I think, she might have more control over, anything that's in the field. That's the idea, right? That she kind of knows what she's doing in that space a little bit better, but they kind of need each other. And that's why they make a good partnership, I think. Like, yeah.
And maybe it's me having too much me time on my hands, but is Tim and Duvall, do their relationship, does it go deeper than the workplace, or is that where it is? Because I don't know if I'm reading into it too much, if I'm overanalyzing the show. Is it deeper than the workplace?
I mean, I always imagined that they'd known each other for a while. They probably know each other's families or they've worked together for a while. I think there's a real friendship there, is what I sort of feel that's what their beginning was,
Yeah, I think like that Tim loves her. Like I don't know if it's romantic or platonic, but that like it is whether it's like a brother-sister dynamic or like maybe at one point it was like romantic, but who can spend that much time with Tim? But I think it's like genuine love, and that like she means the world to him, particularly like in a company where nobody pays attention to him, but she gives him the time of day.
Yeah, and I almost feel like their backstory would be just fascinating, just to find out where these two, the journey they've been on before we finally get to see them.
Let's run it up the flagpole and see about a spinoff.
I got you on that. So let me ask you this: how would you describe the Monarch Corporation as somebody who hasn't started the show yet? Right? Because I'm with you guys. I'm in real time. I have not seen advanced copies. I will see 5 when 5 comes out. So how would you describe the Monarch Corporation as somebody who's just getting in the show and loves the Godzilla universe?
It's like a scientific and governmental, organization that studies monsters, and that's been secret for a long time. And that would be a way to summarize it.
Yeah, I think it's complicated too. Like it's that sort of thing where like if the world knew these things were out there, could they go on living the way they want to? And so I think those like moral questions being decided, like, are we protecting people? Are we protecting ourselves? Are we protecting our mission or things like that? I think I think if you've been watching the show, you can certainly see that the origins of Monarch were pure. and that like all sort of bureaucracies and bloat that like they just things get complicated and you lose sight of why you started these things in the first place.
Yeah, I like that. I'm going to end with this. So I think that one of my favorite parts of the show, it's not just like Godzilla and King Kong beating the hell out of each other, right? It's watching the human element evolve, and it's really just nice to see characters build and build and build. So let me ask you personally, Joe and Elisa, about each other. What do you love about working with each other? What can you say about each other as actors on screen? Because as a viewer, I can say, wow, these guys, they mesh really well. What do you have to say about each other and working with each other as actors?
I mean, I think in some ways we both love acting. I think like there's a real, you'd think that we should, right, doing what we do, but some people just have that passion, and I really felt that in Joe. I love acting. And he's just incredible, like so truthful, everything he does. Energized, creative. He'll try different things on different takes just to give some variation. And it's it really feels like being in a, you know, sometimes you stop and start when you're filming, obviously action cut, all of that, but working with Joe felt like being like in a not that I know how to play tennis, but in a tennis game, like you're going
back and
forth,
and
you're playing and you just continue, or maybe ping pong because it's a bit faster and you got to be on your toes when Joe's around, you know, quick to react. But it felt like you're really just like playing, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I genuinely adore her. I think she is like a phenomenal actor, and that like just to be able to have somebody to play off of, and she's very smart and like asking all of the right questions. And you know, for a show like this that's complicated, that's fantasy, like there can often be lots of questions, and I don't tend to ask those sometimes, I think much to my own detriment. But I think to have a partner, it's somewhat our acting dynamic mirrors the Tim Duvall and that like perhaps maybe I'm a little unwieldy and she's like a bit more put together, but I think we like tease these things out of each other, and I think it just shows up in the characters.
Well, you're both fun to watch. I love both your work. Thank you so much for this time, and I hope you have a great day. Thanks.
Yeah, you as well, man. Thank you.